Marvel, episode 4, Seeing Everything Except Red. And it's your boy Icon with a little Marvel TV. So, we are on our way to Karaki. We are going home to the motherland because Kamala's grandmother, her nanny, that's what she calls her, like Nani. Her nanny had saw the train and she's like, Kamala, you and your mother must come home to see the train. So, her entire family, well, minus her brother, you know, because he's probably on his honeymoon getting his free going. They come to Karak, and when they get to Karak, well, actually, am I saying that right? Is it Karak or Karaki? Well, they go to Karak. Kamala clearly sticks out like a sore thumb. One thing I've noticed throughout the course of this entire series, that when they show the Pakistani community, even in America, but also here when they get to Karaki, all the girls are like, and I don't know if this is a casting choice on purpose, but all the girls are completely different from Kamala. Like, all the girls, they're like, you know, tall and like very skinny, and they have like, you know, like pointy features and everything. Kamala's the only girl on the show who's like short, you know, like with like round features and everything. And it's like, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's clearly designed to make her stand out from the rest of the group. She gets to the airport, she meets her cousins, who her cousins were excited to meet her, and Kamala just didn't care. Like, Kamala didn't care about her cousins. She didn't care about being in Karaki. She just wanted to see her grandmother. She met her grandmother, and then everybody went home. The grandmother and her mother, they got beef, and they go to the house. They're at the house, and then the grandmother and the mother continue to have beef. And, you know, that's when Kamala, she spoke to her nanny about the bangle. And then, you know, she was just like, oh, she was just like, yes. She's like, you have gin in your blood. She's like, what is the big deal? And, you know, and then she was like, she was like, oh, but this and that. And then she was like, you're focused on the wrong things. And I'm like, thank God somebody said it. This girl's been focused on the wrong thing all along. So she just said that she brought her here so she could investigate the train situation, because she told her, she was like, when I was separated from your mother, she was like, you know, when we left India to come here, she was like, you know, we took the last train. And then the story that her dad had told about the girl who got, you know, with the stars, picked her up and brought her back to the train. Her grandmother told her that story too, and then she was like, that's the same story that my daddy told me. And then she was like, it's all connected. And she was like, Kamala, you must find the train. You know, you must look into this and you must find the train. So the next day she goes out with her cousins. She asked her cousins, one of her cousins was just like, oh, we're gonna meet up with friends and have coffee. And then Kamala was just like, oh, I want to go see the train station. And they were just like, all right, peace. And they just left her. It wasn't a conversation. It was just like, oh, you want to see the train station? Bye. They still went off and had coffee, and I'm just like, okay. So she goes to the train station by herself, and now for some reason, she didn't do this when she was in America, and she was using her superpowers in America. She now all of a sudden decides to wear the mask that her friend gave her, that her friend made for her, and I don't understand what the purpose was for her to have the mask. So I don't, like, she's just going to a train station just to walk around and look for clues. There was no reason to wear the mask, but she wore the mask. And then when she gets to the train station, she's looking around, and while she's looking around, she gets attacked by somebody with a dagger. Her and this dagger person have a Marvel-like joking conversation during a serious battle that took me completely out of the fight. And then after the fight was over, you know, the two of them ended up like talking, and then he brought her, he was like, oh, come with me, let me show you something. And then that says every boy to every pretty girl. And then when he brings her back to his house or his hideout, she meets a group of people called the Red Daggers. And they said that they sensed her Noor blood in her system, and they told her that they're also from a different dimension, but it's different from the, you know, from the jinn. He said that the jinn, he said that they're basically trying to get home like everybody else, but the jinn, they're specifically trying to get their hands on the bangle so they can take over the world, because he showed her a map that had the earthly plane on it, and it had the dimension that they belong to on it. And then he said that the jinn is basically trying to kill off this world and take it over as their own. While we're on the subject of the jinn, they're in prison. And the DODC or whatever, like this meta-human crime unit that everybody keeps telling me is a big deal, but they ain't doing shit. They can't even hold, like, despite the fact that they got their hands on the jinn and was somehow magically able to get them in custody, they couldn't hold on to them that long because the jinn busted out of of prison, and now they're on their way to Karak so they can kill Kamala and they can get the bangle. The mom, she turned on her son at the last minute. She actually helped her son get out of prison, so a mother's love is still worth something. But once she helped get her son out of prison, she was like, you cannot come with us to Karak because you've made your choice. And then they left him there, and he's just like, and it's like, that's so stupid too, because it's like, that's your son. You know what I'm saying? You can't turn your back on your 17-year-old son, because it's not like when you go home, it ain't like he's not going to be there. He's going to be home. He'll be like, oh, so how did things go in Karak? I see you failed. You know, it's like, you're still going to see your son. Like, you didn't just disown him in that moment, but she told him that he couldn't come, and then he just stood there looking stupid. I'm like, bro, you just broke out of prison. You should probably leave. And then the rest of the jinn, they left, and they went on their way to Karak so they can get their hands on the bangle. So now, you know, Kamala comes home. She's talking to her grandmother again, and then her and her mom have a nice little conversation. The next day, she goes back to, well, I guess at nighttime, she went to go have a party with the Red Dagger crew. They were having a campfire and eating some weird Indian food. And then, you know, then the next day, she goes back to them, and then they're having a conversation, and then the guy's trying to teach her some more stuff. And while they're having their conversation, the jinn busts through the ceiling like on some SWAT shit, and then this big fight scene happens, and they start killing everybody. Members of both teams died. There was a member of the jinn who got killed. There was a member of the Red Daggers who got killed. Actually, the Red Dagger member that got killed, I believe, was the guy who was in charge of the group. Like, he got killed. Kamala, all of a sudden, now that she's wearing a mask, and they gave her a vest to kind of give her a bootleg version of her proper Miss Marvel costume. But now that she's unnecessarily wearing this bootleg version of the Miss Marvel costume, and now all of a sudden she's wearing a mask, now all of a sudden the girl knows how to fight. She's getting her ass beat literally, well, I don't know how long it took them to get to Karak, but she was getting her ass beat literally like days ago at her brother's wedding. Now all of a sudden, she's sliding under punches and she's kicking people in the chest and then she's using the fist. And I'm like, where did this girl get, where did she get skills now all of a sudden? She's been with these people for like less than a day. So she's fighting off the Karak. I mean, yeah, she didn't know how to throw a dagger, but I'm like, she's doing too many like offensive moves and everything. And then they did a classic chase scene, like a motorcycle chase scene, tearing up the poor people in the neighborhood, destroying the neighborhood. They spilled lots of drinks on stuff on the floor. They ruined these people's lives. And then they saved, but they did save somebody from getting killed. Kamala was better able to use her power at that point where she was creating like ramps and light fixtures. It's like I said before, her bangle, like she's supposed to be an inhuman that has the power of expanding her body a la Reed Richards rubber band style. They basically turned Miss Marvel into the Green Lantern. Like her bangle has the power to create these objects of light. She's the Pakistani Green Lantern. That's basically what she is. So, you know, they're doing the chase scene, and then after they do the chase scene, after both parties died, the mama Jinn, she gets mad and she's like, I'm sick of all this bullshit. And then she basically takes a dagger and then she tries to kill Kamala with the dagger. Kamala puts her arm up, you know, to block it. And then when the dagger hit the bangle, this big ball of light showed up, and I guess it transported Kamala back in time, because I believe it transported her to the moment in time where her great-great-grandmother was about to get on a train for the first time and like dip and go to America. I'm not, well, her grandmother did say at one point, she was like, I got separated from your mother or something like that. And then I was like, I didn't see the dad either, but I thought there'd be a moment where she bumped into her grandmother, but we don't know what happened because it just showed her aimlessly walking around the train station. And then after she was just aimlessly walking around the train station, the episode ended out of nowhere. That was it. And thank you for tuning in. So we have 2 episodes left. The show's only getting 6 episodes. We have 2 episodes left, and I don't know what's happening. We're going back in time. They have 1 episode now to explain the purpose of this entire series. They have 1 episode to tell us the great-grandmother's backstory, to tell us the grandmother's backstory, even her own mama backstory, because the grandmother even said at one point, there was a conversation between her and the mom was just like, oh, she was like, I came to America to get away from you because you were embarrassing me, telling everybody these crazy stories about all this magical stuff. And then I'm just like, so basically, you had a chance to receive the power because the grandmother had the bangle. But because she thought the grandmother's story, her mom's stories was just bullshit and just full of like silly nonsense, before her mother had a chance to give her the bangle so she could find out that all this hoopla was true, she dipped and went to America, which is why the bangle skipped that generation. And then she was like, well, screw it. Let me send it to my granddaughter. Maybe she'll do something with it. So, but we need to get those answers now because the show's almost over. Clearly the jinn are the big bads, like they're the big villains, but it's going to be a thing where we're going to get a whole episode talking about the entire backstory about how the bangle came to be. And then in the final episode, we're going to get her versus the jinn. And then she's magically going to know what she's doing and have all these superpowers. I found out somebody said on the internet that Cap Captain Marvel actually doesn't appear in the series, and that is extremely disappointing. If not Captain Marvel, hell, you could have at least put Nick Fury in the damn thing, but we'll see. Maybe it's a lie. We'll be surprised in the season finale, but something needs to happen now because we only got 2 episodes left. Like, this ain't the time for long drawn out storytelling. And I say this again, these Marvel series, these Disney Plus Marvel series, they need more than 6 episodes because 6 episodes is not enough time. Either things don't get explained or they just rush to get to the finish line and it hurts the overall product because I'm slowly getting into the story now, and now we got like 1 episode left. So, but share your thoughts below, and let's see if all these answers can get answered in the next episode. Hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram, always on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and or concerns. Let me know what you think about the episode so far. Where do you think things are going from here? And where do you think things go now that we only have 2 episodes to go, and where it all ends? Does the series end, like in Karaki, or do they end up going back to America because we still got the unfinished business with her best friend who just found out that she has power? They didn't follow up on that storyline either, so things need to happen. But we're here for it. We'll continue to talk about it and ride that wave to the end. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So till next time, next week for some more Miss Marvel action. Take care. Hope you're not seeing red. But until then, I'm out this bitch.